Hello, fellow microplastic enthusiasts. I am back making YouTube videos. It's been a real long time, probably like a year. There were definitely lots of people commenting on videos, asking questions, stuff like that, and I didn't reply to any of them. I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep it up on YouTube, especially. So I'm going to try to be more consistent, but no promises. Someone was asking about how I do my bases, so that's what this tutorial is going to be. And what the future holds, nobody knows. But I'll try and make more videos. So enjoy. All right, so as you can see, most of this footage was recorded a couple months ago when I had somehow simultaneously more and less hair than I do now. Your first step here is going to be Sterling mud. It's just like your basic mud paint or whatever, texture paint from Games Workshop. You smear that on, then I like to let it dry a little bit and then smear it around again. And that gives it sort of a nice rough texture when it dries. So just going to get that mud paint smeared on there all over the place, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is going to be some gravel. I got these little rocky gravel things I let's just say harvested from the local field a few months back, washed them in soap, and then boom, easy. Glue them on there with some PVA glue, no problem. I like to start with some big chunky rocks that are kind of like boulders, and then I work down to like smaller bits of gravel and almost like little sandy bits and stuff, and that gives like a lot of different texture to it and different sizes and stuff. It looks like there's like broken rocks and whatever. Carrying on, we're going to use green flocking, but we're not going to use it for grass. We're going to use it for gravel. It's like a 2-scale gravel basically, because we're going to paint this whole base. So get some green flocking, smear a little PVA glue down all around the edges of the rocks, and then just sprinkle it on and wait for it to dry. Hell yeah. Once that's all done and dry, you're ready to prime and paint. I like to prime my models with a brush like some kind of caveman, but if you got a rattle can or an airbrush, go ahead and use that. First step of painting is black paint, and it doesn't matter what type of black paint you use. I'm using Pro Acryl Coal Black here, so you can use that. You can use Vallejo, just use whatever. Honestly, as long as it's a good thick coat of black paint. You want it sloppy, you want it wet, you want it down in between all the rocks, you know, because that's going to set like a good dark base and make all the shadows and stuff in between the rocks and gravel. So go ahead and get a good solid black base coat on there, and we'll move on to the next step. After your base coat's all dry, we're on to the real fun, which is just endless layers of dry brushing. So your first layer is going to be a dark warm gray. Any kind of dark gray works. Honestly, I use Pro Acryl dark warm gray. So go with that, dry brush it on, cover the whole base and all the rocks. After that, you're going to start alternating between different browns and grays. So next up, it's dark umber, which is going to be your darkest shade of brown. Now it's important when you do this that the browns are mostly on the dirt patches and the grays are mostly on the rock patches and gravel patches. So I try and keep low patches brown, high patches gray. That's sort of how I work when I'm doing this. These dark colors can be pretty heavy dry brush, and then we'll go lighter and lighter as we move up to the lighter colors and be a little bit more precise. We'll move into smaller brushes too as we go. After that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You move up to a 50-50 mix of dark and light umber. I don't have any comparable shades here, so you're just going to have to wing it. I mean, that's what I do. So go with that and stick to the dirt patches with this dry brush as well. As you can see in the footage, I moved down to a smaller dry brush. These are just makeup brushes. I got them at the dollar store for like $1.50 a pop. They make really good dry brushes. So a little tip there if you need cheap dry brushes. Moving on after that, it's just straight light umber. This will be one of your lighter brown shades, so start dry brushing that on. Get all that around the edges and stuff like that, you know, and this will be a lighter dry brush, so try and focus just on the high points, you know, parts where like there's little mounds and stuff in the gravel, but make sure you get like a good healthy coating of light umber as well. And we're back to the grays. Here is a 50-50 mix of bright neutral gray and dark warm gray. Use this to hit all the rocks and all the high rocky parts of the base. And you know, if there's a little bit of bleed over into the lower dirt portions, that's totally fine, but mostly try and focus this on anything that's going to be rock and gravel. You can see that's starting to come together. You're starting to see a good difference between the dirt and the rocks, and we're really moving into the final steps here. Unfortunately, my recording setup's a little bit scuffed right now, so a lot of the footage has my giant clumsy monkey hands in it that blocks the view of the base itself, but maybe in the future I'll get a better camera. We'll see, no promises. We're really moving into the secret sauce here. Next up is Vallejo Tan. I'm pretty sure when this is dry, this is the exact same color as Games Workshop Bugman's Glow, but I haven't done a blind tasting to confirm. Anyways, get a nice light coat here just on the dirt portions of the base. Light dry brush, just hit the high points. This is getting into like highlight territory, so make sure it's nice and light. You don't want to get too much of this paint on there because it can look a little bit fleshy if you get it on too thick. So like I said, just make sure it's a real light dry brush. Finally, we're going to seal the dirt together with a top highlight of, let's call it 90-10 Vallejo bone white and tan. This is just going to be your peak highlight just on the highest dirt portions. Very fine dusting dry brush, but this is going to make it look real dusty and nice, kind of like a rocky waste sort of color. Once that's out of the way, we're moving on to the final step, which is just straight Pro Acryl Bright Neutral Gray. You're just going to dry brush this onto the rocks. You can even edge highlight at the very end, but I'm usually too lazy to do it, and it looks fine if you just dry brush it. Make sure you're dry brushing top to bottom on all the large protruding rocks and boulders, and that'll give you a nice sort of like highlighted rock look. And that's basically the end of the tutorial right there. I've been using this scheme for all of my bases on my Stormcast army. It works pretty good. It seems like a lot of steps, so once you get going, it's just like boom, 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 layer, layer, layer. It's really not too bad to get through a whole bunch of models pretty quickly with it. And you can add some grass tufts. You can add whatever you want to really like spruce it up. I got some grass tufts on mine. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful or gave you some ideas or something. If you liked the tutorial, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and make more YouTube content in the future. Otherwise, you can check out my TikTok or Instagram pages where I'm a little bit more active. I post a lot of my completed projects and stuff there, and like reels and pictures and whatever else. Anyways, I appreciate you checking out this video, and I hope your painting projects are going well. I'm out. Later.